Have you ever experienced that particular kind of loneliness that only exists at 3 in the morning? That moment when you surface from sleep into a darkness so complete and so silent that the whole world seems to have disappeared, and you are left there, lying in your bed, eyes wide open, heart already quietly racing, wondering why your body has betrayed you again. The clock confirms what you already feared. 3:22 a.m. And something inside you, something tired and frustrated and quietly desperate, lets out a long, invisible sigh, because you know this is not the first time, and you're afraid it won't be the last. If you are an older woman and this experience feels painfully familiar to you, I want you to hear something right now before we go any further. You are not broken. You are not simply getting old, and you are absolutely not alone. What is happening in those silent, dark hours between 3 and 5 in the morning is not random, and it is not meaningless. Your body is communicating with you, with remarkable specificity, with a kind of intelligence that science is only beginning to fully understand. Your body is sending you messages about your hormones, your nervous system, your emotional life, your unresolved stress, and the deepest needs of your physical and psychological health. And in this video, I am going to teach you how to hear those messages clearly and what to do about them tonight, in the moment when you need answers most. I have developed 5 comprehensive, deeply researched strategies that go far beyond anything you've likely heard before. This is not another list of generic sleep tips. This is a full, honest, science-grounded exploration of what is happening inside your body during those early morning hours, and a practical, step-by-step guide to responding in ways that will not only help you return to sleep on the nights when it escapes you, but will begin to transform the overall quality of your rest, your energy, your emotional resilience, and your long-term health. Stay with me through all 5 strategies, especially the 4th one, which most people have never encountered and which I believe could be the single most important shift you make. Because the solution you have been searching for, through all those exhausted mornings and frustrated nights, is closer than you think. It begins with understanding. And understanding begins right now. Strategy number 1. Stop fighting sleep, because the fight itself is what's keeping you awake. I want to tell you something about the human brain that nobody explains when they hand you a list of sleep hygiene tips. Your brain has an ancient, powerful, deeply ingrained survival system, and that system cannot tell the difference between a physical threat and an emotional one. It cannot distinguish between the danger of a predator in the darkness and the danger, as your anxious mind perceives it, of lying awake at 3 a.m. and losing precious sleep. To your nervous system, panic is panic. And panic triggers the same cascade of physiological responses, whether the threat is real or imagined. The moment you open your eyes in the darkness and feel that sinking dread, not again. Why can't I sleep? I'm going to be exhausted tomorrow. Your amygdala, the brain's alarm center, registers that emotional distress as a threat signal. Within seconds, your adrenal glands respond by releasing cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallower and faster. Your muscles tighten almost imperceptibly. Your mind sharpens into a state of alert wakefulness that is, neurologically speaking, the exact opposite of the drowsy, surrendered state required for sleep. And here is the devastating irony at the heart of this experience. The harder you try to force sleep, the more desperately you want it, the more anxiously you calculate how many hours you have left, the more tightly you squeeze your eyes shut and will yourself back into unconsciousness. The more cortisol floods your system, the more your nervous system escalates its alert response, and the further sleep retreats from you. You are, without realizing it, running away from the very thing you are chasing. This is what sleep researchers call conditioned arousal. Over time, if this pattern repeats night after night, your bed itself, the pillow, the darkness, the act of lying down begins to trigger the anxiety response automatically before you've even had a single anxious thought. Your body has learned to associate sleep with struggle, and it responds accordingly. So the most important thing I can teach you about those early morning wake-ups is this: stop the struggle first. Not because struggling is weak, but because it is scientifically, neurologically, physiologically counterproductive. The struggle is the problem. The surrender not to defeat, but to the present moment is the beginning of the solution. Here is what I want you to do the very next time you wake at 3 a.m. with that familiar dread rising in your chest. First, do not look at the clock. I know it is tempting. I know part of you feels like you need to know. The moment you see the numbers, your calculating, anxious mind takes over, counting backward from your alarm, measuring the loss, calculating the damage. The clock is not your friend in this moment. Turn it away from you before you go to bed each night, or cover the face so that number is not the first thing your eyes find in the darkness. Second, sit up slowly. Not with frustration, not with the dramatic energy of someone who has given up on sleep. Just a quiet, gentle shift. Bring yourself upright, prop a pillow behind your lower back, and let yourself simply be awake without resistance. This one physical shift does something important. It signals to your nervous system that you are not trapped, not helpless, not a passive victim of wakefulness. You are a person making a calm and deliberate choice. And that shift in agency, however small, begins to reduce the cortisol response immediately. Third, breathe with intention. Place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly, and take a breath so deep that only the bottom hand moves, your belly expanding forward while your chest remains relatively still. This is diaphragmatic breathing, and it is one of the most powerful, fastest acting tools available to your nervous system. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Pause gently at the top of the breath for just a moment. Then exhale through your mouth for a count of 7 or 8, long, slow, completely unhurried, as though you are breathing out not just air but the entire weight of the anxiety you've been carrying. Do this 6 times. Not 4, not 2, 6 full cycles of deep, intentional, extended exhale breathing. By the 3rd breath, you will begin to feel a change. By the 6th, your heart rate will have measurably slowed. Your shoulders will have dropped half an inch without you consciously telling them to. The cortisol flooding will have begun to recede. This is not a relaxation technique in the vague, wishful sense of that phrase. This is a direct, physiological intervention in your own nervous system, and the science behind it is robust, well-documented, and unambiguous. Fourth, get curious about your physical environment. This is the step most people skip, because they are so focused on the mental struggle that they forget the body is lying in a physical space that may be actively working against sleep. Is your pillow providing genuine support for your neck? Or has it flattened over months or years of use into something that forces your cervical spine into a stressed position? Are your sheets tangled around your legs, creating subtle but real physical discomfort that your body registers as a reason to remain alert? Is the room too warm? Research from the National Sleep Foundation and multiple independent sleep laboratories consistently shows that the optimal ambient temperature for sleep in older adults is between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, and that even 2 or 3 degrees above this range can significantly fragment sleep architecture, increasing the frequency and duration of nighttime wakings. Is there a sound that your conscious mind has filtered out but your sleeping brain has registered as a disturbance? A dripping faucet, a partner's breathing pattern, traffic that peaks and ebbs in the early morning hours. These things matter enormously, and identifying and addressing them is not a minor detail. It is often the difference between a night that is transformed and a night that continues to unravel. Get up if you need to. Adjust the thermostat. Drink a small glass of water. Refold the blanket. Fluff the pillow or replace it with a spare. These small physical acts of care, of attending to your body's comfort with the same patience and attentiveness you would offer a child who couldn't sleep, carry a powerful message to your nervous system. The message is, I am safe. I am cared for. There is nothing here to be afraid of. And your nervous system, which has been waiting for exactly this message, will begin to respond. The wakefulness between 3 and 5 a.m. is not a war to be won. It is an experience to be navigated with intelligence, with self-compassion, and with the understanding that your body is not your enemy. It is simply asking for a different kind of attention than the one you've been giving it. Strategy number 2. Hydrate with wisdom and intention, because dehydration in the night is more dangerous and more common than you know. Let me paint you a picture that I think you may recognize. You come awake in the pre-dawn darkness with a mouth that feels like it is lined with dry cloth. Your lips are parched. Your throat feels slightly thick. There is a dull, insistent pressure at the back of your eyes that isn't quite pain but isn't comfort either. Your legs are restless, not painful exactly, but twitching and unsettled in a way that makes finding a comfortable position feel impossible. Your skin feels oddly warm despite the cool temperature of the room. You feel, in a word that is hard to define but immediately recognizable, simply wrong. This constellation of sensations, the dryness, the headache behind the eyes, the restless legs, the vague warmth, the pervasive sense of being physically unsettled, is the signature of nighttime dehydration. And in older women, it is extraordinarily common. Here is why. As we age, the mechanisms your body uses to detect and signal thirst become less sensitive and less reliable. The hypothalamus, the region of the brain responsible for monitoring fluid balance and triggering the thirst response, becomes progressively less acute with each passing decade. This means that by the time you feel thirsty as an older adult, you are already meaningfully dehydrated. Your body has been running at a fluid deficit long enough that the thirst signal has finally grown loud enough to register consciously. During the day, this is an inconvenience. During the night, it becomes a direct physiological cause of wakefulness. Through the course of a full night's sleep, your body continues to lose water at a significant rate. Through every exhaled breath, which carries water vapor with it in quantities that add up meaningfully over 7 or 8 hours. Through the subtle perspiration that regulates body temperature during sleep. Through the ongoing work of your kidneys, which continue filtering and processing fluid even as the rest of your body rests. By 3 or 4 in the morning, after 6 or more hours of continuous fluid loss with no replenishment, many older women have reached a level of dehydration that is sufficient to trigger the brain's alert systems and pull them out of sleep. And when they wake, many of them make the single most common and counterproductive mistake available. They reach for a large glass of ice-cold water and drink it as quickly as they can. I understand the impulse entirely. When you are parched and uncomfortable at 4 a.m., something cold and abundant feels like exactly what you need. But here is what actually happens when you consume a large quantity of very cold water in the middle of the night. The cold temperature shocks your digestive system, causing a subtle but real contraction response in the stomach and esophagus. Your body, which was beginning to drift back toward the relaxed, low arousal state necessary for sleep, is now managing a thermal regulation challenge. The volume of water you've consumed means your kidneys must increase their processing rate, which means you will likely need to urinate within an hour, waking you again just as you were beginning to settle. And the act of drinking quickly and urgently, like someone who has been stranded in a desert, carries its own physiological stress signature that your nervous system registers. What you need instead is room temperature water, or water that is slightly warmer than room temperature, closer to body temperature. Water that your system can absorb quietly, efficiently, without triggering any defensive or regulatory responses. Keep a small covered glass, not a large bottle, just a modest glass of perhaps 6 to 8 ounces, on your nightstand every single night before you go to bed. Make this a non-negotiable part of your bedtime preparation, as automatic as brushing your teeth. It should be there waiting for you, so that when you wake in the night with that parched, unsettled feeling, you do not have to leave your bed, turn on lights, or stimulate your mind with the activity of going to the kitchen. The water is already there. You sip it slowly, deliberately, without urgency. But there is a second layer to this strategy that goes deeper, and that most people never reach. Water is not the whole answer, because nighttime dehydration is not only about water. It is about electrolytes. Electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and a handful of other essential minerals, are the conductors of your body's electrical system. Every nerve impulse that travels through your body, every muscle contraction and release, every heartbeat, every signal that passes between your brain and your body, all of it depends on a precise balance of electrolytes. When that balance is disrupted, as it reliably is through the fluid losses of a full night's sleep, the consequences show up in exactly the ways that make nighttime waking so miserable. Muscle restlessness, leg cramps, that wired but exhausted feeling, the inability to relax despite the deep desire to do so. The solution, and I want you to remember this because it is so simple and so effective, is to add a single pinch of high-quality, unrefined, mineral-rich sea salt to your glass of water. Not table salt, which has been stripped of its trace minerals through processing and has no place in this strategy. Celtic gray sea salt or Himalayan pink salt, both of which are available in most grocery stores and health food shops, contain dozens of trace minerals in forms that your body can readily absorb. The quantity you need is genuinely tiny. Not a teaspoon, not even half a teaspoon. A pinch, a few grains between your fingertips. Enough to provide a gentle restoration of the sodium and trace minerals your body has lost through the night, without overloading your kidneys or disrupting your fluid balance. Alternatively, or in addition, if you find you prefer the flavor, add a small squeeze of fresh lemon juice to your water. Lemon is one of the most potassium-rich foods available in its natural form, and potassium is among the most critical electrolytes for nighttime muscle relaxation and nervous system calm. Combination of room temperature water, a pinch of Celtic salt, and a squeeze of lemon creates a simple, natural electrolyte solution that will gently and effectively restore what your body has been depleting through the hours of sleep. Sip it the way you would sip something precious. Not frantically, not urgently, but with care and attention, 4 or 5 slow sips, allowing each one to be absorbed before taking the next. As you sip, notice the sensations in your body. Notice the dryness beginning to ease. Notice the restlessness in your legs beginning to soften. Notice that vague wrongness starting to resolve itself into something closer to peace. This is what it means to hydrate with wisdom, not as a mechanical response to thirst, but as a conscious act of care for a body that has been working faithfully through the night and deserves to be replenished with the same thoughtfulness and attention you would bring to any act of genuine self-love. Strategy number 3. Honor your emotions because your body wakes you up to make you listen to what your heart has been too busy to hear. 4:07 a.m. You come awake, and before you have even fully opened your eyes, you know something is different about this waking. There is no physical discomfort, no obvious reason for the interruption of your sleep. The room is the right temperature. Your pillow is fine. You are not thirsty. And yet there is something, a weight, a pressure, an ache that sits just below the level of thought, in that wordless, preconscious space where emotion lives before language finds it. You lie there in the dark and you try to identify what it is. And it shifts away from your attention like a shadow. You catch the edge of it and then it's gone. Maybe a face flickers through your mind, someone you love, someone you've been worried about, someone you've been missing more than you've allowed yourself to say. Maybe it isn't a person at all. Maybe it's a situation, a conversation that went unfinished, a decision you've been avoiding, a fear about your health or your future or someone you care for that you've been keeping at bay during the daylight hours when there is always something else to attend to. In traditional Chinese medicine, a system of understanding the human body that is more than 2,000 years old, and that modern research is increasingly finding to contain genuine biological insight. The hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. are governed by the lung meridian. And in TCM, the lungs are understood to be the organ most deeply connected to the emotions of grief, sadness, and unresolved loss. When these emotions are suppressed, unacknowledged, or unprocessed, they do not simply dissolve. They accumulate. They find their way into the body's physiology, and they emerge reliably, persistently in the quiet hours of the night, when the mind's defenses are down and there is nothing left to distract you from what you've been carrying. Modern sleep science does not use the language of meridians and organ emotions, but its findings point to exactly the same truth. Research published in journals of sleep medicine and effective neuroscience has shown that unresolved emotional stress, grief, anxiety, relational tension, suppressed anger, chronic worry, creates a pattern of hyperactivation in the brain's limbic system that persists during sleep and peaks in intensity during the REM-rich early morning hours. This hyperactivation produces cortisol pulses that are strong enough to interrupt sleep, not at random, but specifically and reliably in those pre-dawn hours when REM sleep is deepest, and when the brain is most actively engaged in processing the emotional experiences of the previous day. Put simply, your body wakes you up at 4 a.m. because it needs you to pay attention to something your waking mind has been too busy, too defended, or too frightened to look at directly. The worst thing you can do in response to this kind of waking is what most of us instinctively do: try to suppress the feelings, push them down, distract yourself from them, or lie there in a growing spiral of frustration and self-criticism about the fact that you are awake and emotional at 4 in the morning. The emotion that your body is trying to surface does not respond to suppression by going away. It responds by getting louder. And in the darkness and silence of the early morning hours, louder can feel completely overwhelming. What I am asking you to do instead is this. Sit up slowly and bring yourself to a position of quiet alertness, not tense, not braced, but present. Place your hand over your heart, over the center of your chest, and feel it beating. This is not a symbolic gesture. Physical contact with the center of your chest activates the vagus nerve and begins to reduce the stress response in measurable, documentable ways. Hold it there and breathe. Then ask yourself, without judgment, without urgency, without any expectation that you need to find an answer or solve a problem, what am I feeling right now? Not what am I thinking? Not what should I be feeling? What am I actually feeling in this body in this moment? Let whatever comes up come up. If it is grief, let it be grief. If it is loneliness, let it be loneliness. If it is anger or fear or that particular exhausted sadness that comes from having given so much for so long without receiving enough in return, let it be exactly what it is. Do not explain it, do not judge it, do not apologize for it. Simply let it exist in your awareness, named and acknowledged, for 60 seconds. Then reach for your notebook. Keep a small, unlined notebook and a pen with a soft light clip on it on your nightstand. Something you can write with in the dark or by the dimmest possible light without fully waking your brain into daytime mode. And write. Not beautifully, not coherently, not with any intention of producing something worth reading. Simply release. Let the words come out of you the way water comes out of a wrung cloth, not in a stream but in drops, uneven and honest and real. I miss her. I am so tired of pretending I am fine. I don't know what to do about this, and I am more afraid than I have told anyone. I am lonely in a way I don't have words for. I need help and I don't know how to ask for it, whatever it is. Write it. And then, and this is the part that matters most, do not fix it. Do not problem solve, do not analyze, do not immediately reach for a solution or a plan. Simply close the notebook, place your hand back over your heart and breathe. Because you have just done something of profound importance. You have taken an emotion that was living in your body as tension and wakefulness and cortisol and restless unease, and you have given it form. You have acknowledged it. You have told it, I see you, I hear you. You don't have to keep waking me up to get my attention. I am paying attention now. And your nervous system, which is extraordinarily sensitive to this kind of acknowledgement, will respond. The tension will begin to ease. The weight on your chest will soften slightly, and the path back towards sleep will begin to appear. Research on expressive writing and its effects on sleep has been conducted across multiple institutions over the past 2 decades, and the results are consistent and compelling. People who engage in regular, honest emotional expression through writing show measurably lower cortisol levels, significantly improved sleep onset latency, longer total sleep time, and reduced frequency of nighttime wakings compared to those who do not. This is not a wellness trend. It is documented, reproducible science. Your emotions are not your enemies at 4 a.m. They are messengers. And the moment you stop fighting the messenger and start listening to the message, everything changes. Strategy number 4. Move your body gently, intentionally, and with full awareness, because stillness is not always the same as rest. 4:31 a.m. You have been lying in the same position for what feels like an eternity, and your body has become a geography of discomfort. Your neck is a locked column of tension. Your shoulders have contracted upward toward your ears. You didn't notice it happening, but they've been there for hours, slowly tightening. Your lower back aches with a particular dull persistence that comes from being held in one position for too long. And your legs are the worst of it. That maddening, electrical, crawling restlessness that makes every position feel wrong within 30 seconds of settling into it. That makes you want to pace the floor at 4 a.m. just to give the sensation somewhere to go. You try to lie still. You try to breathe through it. But the stillness itself is beginning to feel like a kind of torment. Here is the physiological reality of what is happening in your body during a night of fragmented sleep, and why lying completely motionless is not always the answer. During normal, continuous sleep, your body cycles through a series of movement opportunities. The micro-adjustments, repositionings, and shifts of weight that redistribute pressure, refresh circulation, and release the muscular tension that builds whenever tissue is compressed against a surface for an extended period. When sleep is fragmented, when you cycle in and out of wakefulness multiple times through the night, this natural movement process is disrupted. Tension accumulates rather than being released. Circulation to compressed tissues becomes sluggish. The nervous system, which should be cycling through progressive states of deeper relaxation, remains partially activated, caught in a loop between light sleep and wakefulness, never sinking deeply enough to allow the full physiological restoration that deep sleep provides. Additionally, in older women, the hormonal shifts of perimenopause and postmenopause directly affect the nervous system's regulation of muscle tone and relaxation. Lower levels of progesterone, which has a natural GABAergic, calming effect on the nervous system, mean that muscles remain in a slightly higher state of baseline tension through the night. Lower estrogen levels affect circulation to the extremities, contributing to the coldness of hands and feet that many women experience during nighttime wakings. And the prevalence of restless leg syndrome increases significantly with age, particularly in women, creating that electrical, crawling, unbearable sensation in the legs that makes lying still feel impossible. Gentle movement is not a concession to insomnia. It is a direct, targeted, physiologically intelligent intervention in all of these processes simultaneously. Begin with your neck, because neck tension is among the most common and most disruptive contributors to the overall state of physical unease that keeps you awake. Sitting up in bed, let your chin drop slowly forward toward your chest and feel the long, gradual opening that travels from the base of your skull down through your upper spine. Breathe into that stretch, genuinely breathe into it, imagining the breath traveling to the place of tension and softening it. Hold for 5 seconds. Then, with extraordinary slowness, this is not a stretching exercise, this is a meditation in motion. Begin to roll your head to the right, letting your right ear move toward your right shoulder. Pause there. Breathe. Then continue the roll backward, chin lifting, throat opening, the back of your head dropping toward your upper back. Pause. Breathe. Then forward to the left ear toward left shoulder, and back to center. Do this full rotation twice in each direction, so slowly that it takes a full 60 seconds per rotation. The slowness is not incidental. It is the mechanism. Fast movement triggers the nervous system's alertness response. Exquisitely slow movement communicates the opposite, that there is no urgency, no threat, no reason for vigilance. Your nervous system reads the pace of your movement and draws conclusions about the safety of your environment. Move slowly and you are telling it. All is well. Move to your shoulders next. Inhale deeply, the most complete breath you can take, feeling your ribcage expand in all directions. And as you inhale, draw your shoulders up toward your ears with deliberate, conscious intention. Hold them there at maximum elevation for 3 full seconds. And then, on the longest, most complete exhale you can produce, release them entirely. Let them drop with the full weight of gravity. Let everything go. Repeat this 4 times, and with each release, notice that your shoulders drop slightly lower than the previous release, because each contraction and release cycle allows the underlying muscle fibers to achieve a slightly deeper level of relaxation than they could reach through passive stillness alone. This is the principle of progressive muscle relaxation, developed by physician Edmund Jacobson in the 1920s and validated by more than a century of subsequent research. Deliberate contraction followed by conscious release produces a depth of muscular relaxation that cannot be achieved through passive stillness alone. Your muscles need something to release from. Give them a contraction, and the release becomes real. For your lower back, swing your legs gently over the side of the bed so that you are sitting on the edge, feet flat on the floor. Then hinge slowly forward from your hips, letting your hands rest on your knees or slide toward your shins, allowing your spine to decompress under the gentle influence of gravity. Breathe here, 3 or 4 complete breath cycles, feeling your lower back gradually soften and release the accumulated tension of hours spent horizontal. If you have the flexibility and the comfort for it, let your hands slide further toward your feet, allowing a deeper release through the entire posterior chain of your body. Stay here without rushing. This is not a yoga pose to be achieved. It is a simple, natural decompression that your spine has been asking for since long before you woke up. For your legs, The restless, electrical, impossible legs sit at the edge of the bed and lift one leg at a time, extending it forward, and give it a long, loose, gentle shake from the hip. Not a quick vibration, a slow, heavy, pendulous movement, like a tree branch swaying in a mild wind. 20 to 30 seconds per leg, with full permission to let the movement be as loose and uncontrolled as it needs to be. You are not performing this movement for anyone. You are simply creating a channel for the restless energy to move through and out of your body, rather than continuing to build and accumulate in tissues that have nowhere else to send it. Finally, address your circulation. Rub your palms together briskly, 15 to 20 seconds of sustained friction, until they feel genuinely warm. Then cup both hands around your feet, one at a time, and hold them there for 30 seconds each. This is not merely comforting, though it is genuinely comforting. Research published in the journal Sleep has shown that peripheral vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels in the hands and feet, is one of the body's primary mechanisms for reducing its core temperature in preparation for sleep onset. When your extremities are warm, your body's core temperature drops appropriately, and sleep becomes dramatically easier to initiate. You are, with your warm palms cupped around your cold feet, actively replicating and supporting one of your body's most fundamental sleep preparation processes. This entire sequence, neck rotations, shoulder contractions and releases, forward fold, leg shakes, hand warming, takes between 5 and 8 minutes when performed with the slow, mindful deliberateness it deserves. 5 to 8 minutes. And in that 5 to 8 minutes, you will have addressed muscle tension, nervous system hyperactivation, circulatory stagnation, restless leg symptoms, and the body's core temperature regulation mechanism. Simultaneously and naturally, without medication, without leaving your bedroom, and without any equipment beyond your own two hands and the intelligence of your own body. This is what it means to work with your body instead of against it. Strategy number 5. Use sound as a bridge between wakefulness and sleep, because your mind needs something to rest on when it cannot rest by itself. 3:52 a.m. You are awake. Your eyes are open in the darkness, and your mind is doing what minds do at this hour, which is to say, it is doing absolutely everything at once. You are replaying the conversation from yesterday that didn't go quite right. You are anticipating the appointment you have next week and running through every possible outcome. You are thinking about your daughter, your health, your finances, that strange noise the furnace made last Tuesday. You are thinking about something you read 6 months ago that somehow surfaces in perfect, useless detail at 3:52 in the morning. Your mind is a room full of voices, all talking simultaneously, none of them saying anything that can be resolved or addressed at this hour, all of them demanding attention with an urgency that feels disproportionate and exhausting, and completely beyond your control. You try to tell your mind to be quiet. It laughs at you and keeps talking. You try to focus on your breathing, and within 90 seconds your mind has pulled you back into the spiral of thoughts as smoothly and inevitably as a current pulling a leaf downstream. This is not a failure of willpower or discipline. This is a fundamental feature of the human mind in a state of hyperarousal, and understanding why it happens is the first step toward finding the tool that actually addresses it. Your brain, like every other organ in your body, is always seeking stimulation, input to process, patterns to identify, problems to solve. During the day, the environment provides this stimulation continuously, and your brain distributes its processing capacity across dozens of simultaneous inputs. But at 3 a.m., lying in a dark, quiet room with nothing external to engage with, your brain does not simply go quiet. It turns inward, and it generates its own stimulation from the vast stores of unprocessed material available to it. Unresolved worries, unconsidered fears, unrevisited regrets, unexamined anxieties. The silence and darkness that you associate with sleep are also, paradoxically, the conditions under which your brain's internally generated content becomes loudest and most insistent. The solution is not to add silence on top of silence and hope for a different result. The solution is to give your brain a specific, gentle, external signal to follow, something that provides just enough stimulation to occupy the brain's pattern-seeking, stimulus-hungry attention, while remaining neutral enough, repetitive enough, and non-demanding enough that it does not actually increase arousal. What you need, in other words, is sound, but not just any sound. The type of sound matters enormously, and getting it wrong can make things worse rather than better. Music with melody and lyrics is generally counterproductive at 3 a.m. Your brain, encountering a melody, will attempt to follow it, anticipate it, recognize it, perhaps sing along internally. Lyrics engage your language processing networks, the very parts of your brain that have been generating the anxious inner monologue you are trying to quiet. Music, despite feeling relaxing in other contexts, often adds to cognitive arousal at this hour rather than reducing it. What works instead, and what has been validated through a growing body of peer-reviewed research, is non-musical, consistent, spectrally rich sound. Brown noise is the most deeply effective option for most people, and it deserves a detailed explanation because many people are unfamiliar with it. Unlike white noise, which contains equal energy at all frequencies and can feel harsh and overwhelming to sensitive listeners, brown noise has a frequency distribution that rolls off as frequency increases, meaning it is richer and heavier in the lower frequencies, producing a sound reminiscent of a deep, slow river, or sustained distant thunder, or wind through the broad canopy of a very large forest. This sound profile closely matches the acoustic signature of natural environments in which the human species evolved, environments in which our nervous systems learned, over hundreds of thousands of years, to associate this particular quality of sound with safety, with shelter, with the absence of threat. Neurologically, brown noise appears to reduce activity in the default mode network, the brain's internally focused, self-referential processing system, which is precisely the system responsible for generating the anxious rumination that keeps you awake. Sound tuned to 432 Hz is a second option worth exploring carefully. Standard Western music is tuned to 440 Hz, a convention established in the 20th century for reasons of standardization rather than physiological benefit. Music and tonal sounds composed at 432 Hz have a quality that many people describe as warmer, more resonant, and more inherently calming than standard tuning. Preliminary research, still early but consistent in its direction, suggests that 432 Hz sound reduces anxiety scores, lowers heart rate, and promotes a qualitatively different relaxation response than standard tuned music. For the purposes of nighttime listening, recordings of simple instrument tones, singing bowls, gentle piano, sustained string notes, at 432 Hz can provide the auditory anchor your mind is seeking without the arousing effects of melody and lyrics. Delta wave audio represents a third, more specialized option. Delta waves are the brainwave frequencies associated with the deepest stages of non-REM sleep, slow, large amplitude oscillations occurring between 0.5 and 4 cycles per second. Binaural beat recordings designed to encourage delta wave activity work by presenting slightly different frequencies to each ear, causing the brain to produce a third frequency equal to the difference between the two. a frequency that falls within the delta range. The theory is that the brain, encountering this external delta frequency signal, begins to synchronize its own activity toward it, a process called entrainment. The research on binaural beats is mixed but promising, and many women who have struggled with chronic early morning waking report that delta wave recordings represent the single most effective tool in their toolkit. The practical application of all of this is simple. Before you go to bed each night, place a pair of comfortable, sleep-friendly earbuds or headphones on your nightstand, already connected to whatever device or app you have chosen, already cued to the sound you have decided in advance to use. This advanced preparation is not optional. The worst thing you can do at 4 a.m. is pick up your phone, unlock it, open a streaming app, scroll through options, compare recordings, adjust settings, and then try to choose. Every one of those actions activates your brain's decision-making networks, exposes your eyes to blue spectrum light that suppresses melatonin and deepens the wakefulness you are trying to overcome. Decide in advance. Have it ready. One reach to the nightstand, eyes still closed, earbuds in, one tap and sound begins. Let the sound do its work without resistance. Do not listen to it actively, analyzing it, judging whether it's working, monitoring your body for signs of drowsiness. Simply let it be there, a gentle and consistent presence that your mind can rest against, the way a tired traveler rests against the window of a moving train, not directing the journey but simply allowing it to carry them forward. Within 10 or 15 minutes, you will notice that the volume of your internal monologue has decreased. The thoughts are still there. Thoughts do not simply disappear on command, but they have lost the urgent, insistent quality that made them so exhausting. They have become quieter, further away, less compelling. And in that quieter space, your nervous system will find its way back toward the deep, restoring, genuinely healing sleep that your body needs and deserves. These 5 strategies are not separate techniques. They are 5 facets of a single, unified approach to your own body, an approach grounded in respect, in science, in emotional honesty, and in the understanding that your body is not your adversary in those dark and difficult early morning hours. It is your partner. It is trying, through every symptom and signal and unwanted waking, to guide you toward greater health, greater self-awareness, and a more authentic relationship with your own needs. The women who transform their sleep do not do it by fighting harder. They do it by learning to listen more deeply. And that begins with a single decision. The decision you are making right now, by having watched this video to the very end, to take your own well-being seriously enough to change something. Please share this video with every woman in your life who has lain awake in the pre-dawn darkness wondering why her body won't let her rest. She needs this information, and she needs to know she is not alone. If this video served you, give it a like. Leave a comment telling me which strategy resonated most deeply with you. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss what we share next. Because your best sleep is not behind you. It is waiting for you, and it is closer than you think.